will be.
Okay. Oh, well, now it is.
I'm doing the same thing myself.
And welcome to another virtual pubcast. I'm your host, Ken Eggman, joined by Bill Arsenault, Bill Leon,
Hello.
Hawk Ripjaw,
Hello.
and no one else. And Bill Leon is playing while
And
we
no
are.
one else.
And the rest are here on Gilligan's Isle.
The professor to...
Yeah, you ever wonder, like, the first season of that Gilligan's Island theme, they don't say it's like
And Marianne,
and the rest.
And the rest.
Right. So the rest equals two people. The professor and Marianne.
It's the professor and Marianne.
Exactly. But in the first season, and I think I think it's the entirety of the first season, they just say Gilligan, the skipper 2, the millionaire and his wife, the movie star, and the rest.
It's like, well, fuck the science guy.
They couldn't say two more people in that fucking theme.
That's why you hire writers, folks.
I think vaguely it had something. I heard something about it having something to do with if you named them in the cast at the front, you'd have to pay them more or something. But which honestly, that sounds suspiciously like something that would totally make sense in those days. You know, that's totally 60s television thinking. But we're not here to talk Gilligan's Island. We're here to talk Logan.
That would make for a great podcast, though. Just a Gilligan's Island podcast that no one gives a crap about.
Every episode, we review another episode of Gilligan's Island.
Gilligan's Island, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, by the time we got to the Harlem Globetrotters stuff in the cartoon.
Oh! Can I tell you guys a story?
Uh-oh. We've got a Bill Leon story brewing.
We delivered pizza to the Harlem Globetrotters yesterday.
Oh.
No tip. 30 pizzas, no tip.
Oh, what a bunch
of
bastards.
The Harlem Globetrotters stiff to a tip. Hey, here's the thing. That's a story to tell now.
Did they leave a digital? Was it paid like online or was it paid up front at the door?
I paid it out in the shop, but you write the tip on the receipt like at a bar.
Oh, okay, and they didn't write anything there.
No.
Oh man.
It wasn't them. It was somebody that like some manager or something, you know. But
well, maybe they didn't know. You know?
It doesn't matter. The fact is, you're paying for that many pizzas. You leave a fucking tip.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who didn't leave the tip. You're still a butthead if you did that.
Yeah, no, the manager's still an ass, or whoever that is, the intern, whatever. But the Harlem Globetrotters, they probably didn't know.
That is hilarious. Wow. So speaking of, actually, that would have been a great way to segue into Death Race 2050 because it's a Roger Corman cheapo. But we'll go to Logan since that's the one that people actually want to hear us talk about.
Yes.
So Logan came out this weekend, and I think everyone here had a collective.
Really?
No, not at all. This movie was fucking awesome.
I was gonna say, I haven't seen it.
Oh,
it's a really, really good movie, and I say this on record as a well-documented
X-Men of the
opponent of the X-Men films. Yes, I do not like the X-Men movies very much.
Hey, I'll give you
not even the original.
Wow. Okay.
You like First Class though. So
I do like First Class a lot, but not like I like Logan.
Yeah,
right.
X2 was probably prior to this the I would say the most consistent of the X-Men movies. First Class has its moments that are interesting. I would even argue Days of Future Past has things about it that are interesting.
Like the end credits?
Okay.
But the problem with those movies is...
like when Apocalypse is making the pyramids?
That would be X-Men Apocalypse.
No, you said the end credits of Days of Future Past.
No, I'm talking about when I was sitting there in the theater and it hit as soon as it said directed by Bryan Singer and it hit me. Oh, the movie's over. Thank God.
Oh, okay.
Well, let me say this much. I will say in advance of... I know we're not talking about Apocalypse today, but when the ending teaser at the end of Days of Future Past was like this really shitty CGI scene of like someone building pyramids. The thought on my mind was, oh, okay, so the next one's going to suck.
And it kind of did. I mean,
I think everybody thought that.
I gave it an okay-ish review initially,
Yes.
but it's not a movie that wears well over time.
Yeah, Days of Future Past and actually First Class, both, I would argue, are films that when I first saw them in the theater, I thought, you know, that was good. And then after that, like, the more I thought about it, the more things about it really started to get to me. And then when I came around to rewatching them, holy shit, they don't hold up.
Yeah, I mean, I would even argue that First Class doesn't. The best part about First Class by a significant margin is the Magneto backstory and his dynamic with Professor X.
Right, which is pretty much entirely the first, like, 20 minutes of the movie.
Well, no, I mean, they go through some more of it, and I think their dynamic continues to be strong throughout most of the film. Like, I'll still defend First Class. It's not great, but I don't think it has as many problems as the other ones did.
One thing that always bugged me about First Class is that Professor X gets so angry that Magneto killed Kevin Bacon. And it's like, if there's anyone who's really, like, deserving of a good killing, it was Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon.
Nazi Kevin Bacon.
Screaming?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think he was linked to Sebastian and felt the pain of the coin going through his skull.
You know, there's a distinct don't do it kind of.
Well, yeah, I mean...
That, and I think it was like, look, you're giving in to the very hate that you're trying to destroy. So
right.
Do it. I think that's what it was supposed to be.
And then he was a heroin addict, Charles.
Yeah, and
well, it wasn't heroin. It was
basically heroin.
It was heroin that actually made
heroin.
him more mobile.
Reverse heroin.
Reverse heroin. Yes, it was helpful heroin.
Helpful heroin.
But no. Yes. I want to say.
So
right
there is genuine disdain for these X-Men movies amongst this crew,
and I'm finding it hard to imagine a scenario. I know it's really early in the year, but I'm finding it hard to imagine a scenario in which Logan will not be one of my favorite movies of the year, just given how much it's still been on my mind since I saw it last Thursday.
I have to say that Logan is the first major release film this year that has given me that feeling of like this is an artful thing that I'm watching. There was care that was put into this. There's power in the performances. I actually kind of feel the same way I felt during Fury Road, where I was like, this is more than just a brainless action movie. They put thought into the world. They put thought into the story. Now, I do still have a handful of small reservations with Logan. They're not earth-shattering, but I think it may be a good idea before we delve into, into too much love of this movie that I mention a couple things I found problematic.
Okay.
First of all, the thing that I think was most problematic for me is in the overall treatment of the primary villain and the introduction of basically the Wolverine clone character.
Spoiler alert.
Spoilers, yeah.
Well, we're talking about what I didn't like about the movie, so the spoilers are pretty much written into this. Plus, Bill Leon has basically gone off the grid, so...
Oh, there he is.
That's so! Nah.
You were on mute for the longest time, dude, so...
I want to have a cigarette.
Oh, okay.
I haven't seen this movie, and I want to...
You're having a cigarette, yet...
Slightly spoil.
You were having a cigarette off air, yet usually you toke up on air.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, I don't want to...
He doesn't want to send a message to the wrong people, Bill.
Cigarettes bad, token up. Hey.
Well...
Yes, that is how it is, yes. But I'm just saying, like... I'm just saying, okay, whatever.
So yeah, I mean, so now that Bill Leon is here, Ken, we should tiptoe around your second point.
Well, I've already said the main element of it that I'll just say that the way that character is treated, it felt very much like a relic of the other X-Men Wolverine movies, in that it was a very easy way of getting around having more depth to the villain. They have a few other villain characters who they put into it, like the Doctor character and things like that. But they are kind of underwritten, and they make a brief appearance. And I would say, while they definitely get their moments in the sun, in the end, this main character that he has to fight ends up being very much the token mindless killer trope.
Kind of, but I thought the same thing. Then I gave it a little more thought, and then it kind of, in the context of the story, that direction worked.
Yes.
And then I think, secondly, it set up a very obvious but still effective way of illustrating how Logan is trying to escape from his past.
Don't you dare say he's just fighting himself, because that is...
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
that's probably not exactly what they were going for. That's something that could be easily pulled, yes, but I doubt that Mangold was exactly going for that. It was probably more like, yeah, he's fighting himself, sort of, but it's a little different. It's hard to put into words exactly, but
it's like I said, it's a look at him trying to escape from that brutal nature that he's spent.
I would say it's
140 years.
I would say that's probably more accurate than saying he's fighting himself. It's more like he's fighting that trait.
Yeah,
that's within himself,
and he can't get away from it, and it's more powerful than he is.
And really, in this whole movie, it's written into the DNA of this film as the world of the movie. It's a very bleak existence they're in. It feels post-apocalyptic, but it's not. They establish that the world is okay right now for the most part. I mean, mutants have there hasn't been a new mutant born in like however many years, but they explain that for the most part everything's okay, and they drop little hints as to why the mutants haven't been born or anything. But when we see locations and settings, Wolverine specifically chooses an outpost in Mexico that's dirty and dank and rusted and dusty and everything. The places he picks for hiding out and going to on their eventual road trip, in a way, kind of represent where his mindset and where he's at this point.
I got a distinct Mad Max 1. I have a poster of behind me.
Right. Okay.
Inspiration from this. The thing about the first Mad Max is I would call it a pre-apocalyptic film, in that you can tell the threads of society are starting to crumble. There is a government that is in power that does things and to assert its power, but the sensation you get is that government is increasingly desperate and doing bigger and more and taking bigger risks in order to hold on to that power. And you get the feeling that the fabric of society is slowly coming apart at the seams. And
I didn't get that far. I wouldn't go that far.
I got dystopian because there are references to this genetically engineered corn, and then that's been killing off the mutants. Not to mention the corn syrup that, quote, everyone drinks to be happy. So I wouldn't say it's a society that's crumbling. I would say it's a society that's it has slipped down a couple of notches, but still exists and functions. But there's still something very bleak and helpless about it.
Well, I'll give you a couple examples here. For instance, you have the sequence involving the farmer and how the farmer is basically embattled by the corporate interests who are trying to push him out, and there's no police there to help him. The authorities can't do anything.
Well, it's the middle of the night, and the goons have probably paid off whatever local police there are.
Exactly, though. It's a situation. What you have in these, in what I call a pre-apocalyptic kind of scenario, you have a government which is able to control the big cities, which is able to control major sectors, but there's a little looser rein when it comes to local law enforcement. They don't have the control over small. That's where Mad Max comes in. You get the sense that if you went to the big city, it would probably function pretty much like cities do. But in these outskirts towns, like in Mad Max, the feeling you get is that local government, local police departments pretty much have to work with whatever material they have on hand.
I think that's how it is now, though, isn't it?
Well, not really. There's a huge amount of government funding and resources that goes into.
But I mean, like, you don't normally see like the feds, unless it's a big disaster, pop in on a local murder case. You know what I mean? Like I'm just saying what world you're describing, it's a little too. I think you're giving it the pre-apocalyptic label a little too early. You know, like
Well,
I don't think Logan is at that point.
I think you could have one more film in this universe that goes a little bit further before you get to that point. But I see your point too, Ken.
I see how it's reminiscent
sure.
of that. Yes.
Yeah. It's got the makings of it.
I think the environments they choose to shoot, the old what was it, like a factory or something that they were living in Mexico, that was all rusted out and everything. The beat up cars they were driving, the farm out in the middle of nowhere.
How about the sequence with the trucks that were driving themselves?
The trucks that were driving themselves, which represented, the technology of the day and everything.
I think it's. I mean, I wouldn't. I know you're giving up as a point of pre-apocalypse, Kim, but I still think that's just a future snapshot of a heavily industrialized and corporate-owned country.
I would argue that I think the strongest case for this is actually the only sequence in the film that takes place in a major populated area, which is when they're in Las Vegas briefly.
Was it Las Vegas? I assumed it was Las Vegas.
It's some sort of casino in.
It was clearly New Orleans though, but because I recognized Harrah's casino.
It felt like it was supposed to be Las Vegas, but I guess I could be wrong.
It wasn't actually New Orleans. I mean, that was shot in New Orleans. But
no, they definitely named what city it was, and it was not Las Vegas, but it definitely felt like Las Vegas. To Ken's point,
yeah, it definitely did. Yeah, that's what I thought when I was watching.
So whatever the city was, the actual name of it doesn't matter. The point is, all you see of the city is that it's this hive of just consumer heavy activity, and there's a distinct line you can draw to that of, say, the Roman Empire at towards the end of its peak, where you had these cities that were still functioning at a very high level and still heavily in control. But as soon as you left them, all bets were off. There was nothing to protect you and the civilian populace outside of the gates.
No, sorry, I just don't agree with this argument. I think it's okay. I'm not saying like you're wrong necessarily. I'm just saying like that was your feeling you got from it. But I think maybe you're correct. It's a little bit too much of a reach, almost, in my opinion. Like it just there needed to be more information for us to gather that in fact that is what's going on. The stuff involving like the trucks that driving themselves, which we've seen real technology. The company Otto, that's like a division of Uber or something. And I think or they're working with Uber. I don't know. They have self-driving trucks and everything. I think that's just an example of where the world might be heading, and B, it's also kind of a thread that's embedded in the film very loosely and vaguely of this corporate takeover of the country. Like we see and hear little bits. What was the name of the evil corporation that was behind the testing of the kids in Mexico? Do you remember the name of the company? Okay, well,
it was Alkali, because it was a reference to Alkali Lake, which was where Wolverine was experimented on.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Well, they obviously they're a big corporate company and they're trying to do all these tests and everything. And then little bits of information are dropped in the film, like at the farm, where he's like, "Oh, these corporate guys are taking us over." You know, you can see those machines working out in the farms. I'd like to be out in the farm. Or you got the trucks, and then you got other stuff happening. Like there were a couple news bits on the radio they listened to, and things on the TV in the background. And then finally, at the very end, the main doctor villain guy gives a 1 minute spiel about what's kind of going on, and he still doesn't give off too much information. He's just giving up just enough to kind of string together in your mind this thread of like this weird corporate takeover of the world, and how mutants kind of factored into it in some way, either indirectly or directly.
I will make one more case to my point. I just feel I need to make this point.
Sure.
As far as trucks replacing actual drivers, it is a fact that the single biggest job in America that employs the most people is the trucking industry. There are more truck drivers than any other job in America right now. I just Googled it just to make sure I was right.
Oh, wow, okay.
Because I remember hearing that statistic, and I was like, and here's the thing: when you have that job completely replaced, suddenly you've got mass unemployment. And the hint that it was giving to me is with mass unemployment, you have desperation, and desperation is, I think, a very key theme in this film.
So at the most, I think what we're seeing is a poor economic situation when it comes to unemployment and stuff in the country and probably the world.
Right.
So in a way, maybe it does fit into pre-apocalyptic. It's still not quite.
Okay,
I think it's drastic, but
maybe we're not at the status of the world, say, as like. Did anyone here see The Rover?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We're not quite at that stage, but we're getting there. That's my point.
If changes aren't made, we could eventually end up there. Okay.
Something I saw something different with the self-driving cars, or the trucks. It continued to push this idea of how just completely and utterly alone Logan is.
Yeah, I mean, he's out on the road, not even with other.
There's
drivers.
not even other people out there except for that one family they come across, and I think that continues. Just this movie, I've actually recommended this to a couple people, and a couple of them have come back, and a couple of them have liked it, a couple of them have not. But one thing we can all agree on is that it is a very unhappy movie.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe till the end, but even then, it's kind of.
It's like just there's this
sauced
really
in this thick unpleasantness, but
it's dour in a way. This is really interesting. Okay, so this movie was helpless and dour and sad, and I thought it was like really bitter and angry too. The violence had an edge to it that was just vindictive.
Specifically the first Berserker attack.
Yeah,
that was really mad.
Very brutal and very violent, and also a lot of practical gore effects, which made it a lot more realistic feeling.
Yeah, the Berserker attack felt like something like you think it's a dream the way it's set up, and then it keeps going, and then I think that was what was really effective about it, is that it sinks into you as like, this is not a dream, it's just life is not fair in this movie. Like the consequences of that are not elegant or graceful or honorable or anything like Hollywood would normally do. It just sucks. Like somebody who wrote an article on this movie, they said Logan is I can't remember the exact wording, but it had to do is like Logan's the way that it tampers with some Hollywood tropes is that, you know, sometimes you fuck up and then you die and life's not fair, and that's it. But anyway, what I was getting at is that this movie again is very, very sad and bleak, and so was Batman v Superman. But
they're different. There's a difference in how they're executed.
Exactly, because Logan is a very heavily character-driven story that works towards a strong thematic finish. Not to mention you've had the benefit of a couple decades of Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine.
Not to mention, I would argue that Superman is not a character who is capable of successfully pulling off a dour storyline.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Is that
He
BVS?
Could, but it's tricky, isn't it?
Well, BVS is a movie that was sad for the sake of being sad. It was like, oh, I'm Zack Snyder, I'm dark, we're not Marvel, and Logan had a point to that. It was an embittered end of his, end of
the line,
end of his rope. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Daphne Keane as X-23.
Oh yeah, for the amount of dialogue she had, which wasn't much. I mean, she was
and a lot of it in Spanish.
And a lot of it in Spanish. She was very evocative.
Her physical acting is absolutely tremendous for an 11-year-old.
And this is like her first. Was this like an introducing movie for her?
I think this is her first movie. Yeah, she was also. I want to say she was a dancer. I looked her up to see kind of what the process of the movie was for casting her. She said she had to drop a lot of F-bombs around Hugh Jackman during the audition process.
That's awesome.
And that was really awkward for her. But yeah, I want to say I was reading about this and she's a dancer or something, which makes sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of choreography for her character she has to go through.
Her eyes are just intense as hell, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even when she's not particularly being intense, she's intense,
She's got those eyes, yeah.
She's just very piercing. And I think all this that we're bringing up with regards to pre-apocalypse and regards to the environment of the movie and how that reflects where Logan is at the time. This all really is a testament to the movie Logan's power, as a film. It's a testament to how well James Mangold handled it, how well Hugh Jackman performed in it, and how well it was written.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a great film.
I had to confirm this. I almost had a situation where I was upset with a continuity error again because Caliban is a main character in this.
Oh, yeah, right.
And I had to double check, but I don't think he died in Apocalypse. So
no, I think he was just beaten up and thrown aside or something.
Yeah, they didn't show his death. So
I'd like to think that Logan is set in an X universe that does not include Apocalypse or Days of Future Past or even First Class or even X3. I think in fact, to be honest, fuck it, it's not in any X canon. It's its own thing.
It's a very effective standalone film. Like there's some people online just saying, "Oh, should I watch the other movies before I watch this?" And the general consensus is, no, you don't have to. It's a standalone film. You'll kind of miss the emotional punch of seeing seeing Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart after years and years of playing these characters, but you could see the movie and still kind of know what's going on.
Yeah. I think the only movie I would recommend people watch before this is X-Men Origins Wolverine, just to see how completely different of a film you could make and set it in the same universe.
That was like a movie made by committee right there. That was like
it really was.
Let's just throw in all these different mutant characters all at once, like make it X4 or something, and as opposed to a Wolverine Origins tale, which I think we were all at that point really wanting, because we had seen X-Men 2, which they hinted at Wolverine's past, but then Wolverine said, "I don't give a fuck at this point. Let's just move on."
What makes
and so I was like, "All right, we're gonna see that. We're gonna see how Wolverine became Wolverine," and then,
what makes what makes that movie so infuriating? What makes it so infuriating to me is that there are elements in that film, especially towards that beginning and that opening montage, that say this could be a much better movie without a whole lot more effort.
Yeah, I think Gavin Hood definitely had his ideas for the film, and in fact, I know this. And then Fox came in and just fucked with everything. Fun fact, Origins Wolverine was so unpopular and such a disaster that the planned X-Men Origins Magneto film had its first act rolled into the first act of First Class.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So Magneto's revenge mission was originally going to be a whole movie in Origins Magneto.
That would have been something. It
would have been, and I kind of wish Origins Magneto came first, because those are some of my favorite bits of First Class.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, if you edit it around that and all of the Magneto stuff from the other films, you might get a somewhat decent story. I don't know.
Yeah.
So what else about Logan? I mean, it's very much like we've been talking like how it's pre-apocalyptic, almost post-apocalyptic, but it's also kind of a Western.
Absolutely. It's very much a Western.
Well, of course,
not just in the setting choices, but just in the story.
And you literally have them watching the movie Shane at one point.
Which it was almost on the nose, but at the same time, it was a part of giving X-23 more hope, I guess, because she was a child born out of a test tube, basically.
That was kind of stupid when she quoted the movie at the end, though.
You know what? That didn't bother me because the sense I got from it is, well, first of all, knowing her history, this is probably the first movie she's ever watched in her life. And so that might make a very severe impact on her. And the fact that she could quote it immediately, after, to me, the way she's watching it and the body language I get from that sequence early on is that she's not just watching it, she's studying it. And she's using it as a template with which to basically live her life. And that's a very interesting character moment for her, where she and the professor are watching this this 1950s Western, pinnacle of Western tropes. Probably one of the most repeated and copied Westerns out there.
Yeah.
And yes, it's a little on the nose, but I was just talking to Billy on before the Pubcast about this. I am unabashedly a fan of Westerns, and so I loved the way. No, yeah.
I haven't told you a million times.
So the way this was sewn into the story and the respect with which it was paid, you know what? This is what I said about, like, in Rogue One, it didn't bother me that Peter Cushing was the CG Peter Cushing was in there, because if anything, it introduced a generation of people to Peter Cushing, the actor. Well, this, if anything, introduced an entire generation of viewers to the movie Shane, which is a fucking good movie.
This movie reminded me of, I think, Ken, as you also know, I'm not the biggest fan of Westerns, but I think Logan made me realize that I respect the themes of Westerns more than I enjoy watching the actual movies.
Watch Shane if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I will. I think I saw it in Wyoming a few years ago, because my roommate always had some kind of Western movie on. Just last couple of points. I do want to briefly touch on the pre-credits. The pre-movie teaser that we got. You guys both got a teaser, right?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But first, the star of the show, Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
Is, let's see, the first X-Men movie was 2003, right?
No, 2000, I think.
Yeah, it was 2000. So Patrick Stewart as well. Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman have been playing these two characters for 17 years, and they both brought with them all the gravitas of what they've been doing all these years. Like, they had so much weight to them. They've seen everything, and I don't know. I just wanted to just point that out really quick. Hugh Jackman did an amazing job in this.
It felt like this was Hugh Jackman's The Wrestler. In a way, like he not that he's like Mickey Rourke or anything like that. I'm just saying, or vice versa or whatever. I'm saying that this was like his. Yeah, why not? This was like a performance like that, where they were playing characters that were both against the ropes, and they were kind of at the way past their prime, but they still had one last fight in them, maybe.
I think both Jackman and Patrick Stewart in this film deliver performances that contend on such a high level. I think that while they because of the fact that it's a comic book genre piece, I think they'll be ignored, but I sincerely believe that they were of Oscar caliber in their delivery.
Absolutely. It's, I don't know. It was really good. Hugh Jackman posted a video on Twitter. It just says, "Hi." And the video itself is Jackman doing vocal dubbing for his feral sequence in the forest.
Mm-hmm.
And he's actually got a radius of probably 5 or 6 feet around him while he's got the microphone in front of him. And that is because while he's doing the voice acting, he is yelling and slicing his fist through the air like he's actually got claws. And it's really cool. It's kind of adorable, but it's super awesome just to see how much he gets into it when he's recording.
Just doing ADR. Yeah, that's nice.
Yep. Did
you just look it up, Ken?
Did he do the voice for the Wolverine Origins video game?
I don't know. However, that Wolverine Origins video game is fucking awesome and way better than the movie was.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was M-rated, it was super violent. You chop off limbs and stuff, and then as Logan's getting shot and torn up, you can basically see his skin and muscles get torn away down to his adamantine skeleton. And then it just kind of repairs itself if you wait around long enough. Side note: do not let the taint of the movie spoil the fun of the game. If you come across it, it's fun. The teaser before the movie.
Oh yes,
is basically it's basically Fox Marvel's answer to the Pixar short film before the feature. That's how I felt.
It's funny because James Mangold kept saying, "Yeah, there's something in there for the fans," you know. And people are like, "Oh my god, is it a post-credit sequence?" And James Mangold's like, "No, it's not a post-credit." Like, stop lying, motherfucker. There's a post-credit sequence, isn't there? He said, "No, I promise you there is not a post-credit sequence." And he bamboozled all of us because it's not. Yes, it's a pre-credit sequence.
Yeah.
Bill Leon, you haven't seen this yet, have you?
No.
It's been posted online though.
Right.
Yeah. So it's okay.
Need to change that Deadpool 2 release date because the January release date has me very concerned.
Well, here's the thing. If this short film that they use as a teaser, and I call it a short film because all indications are that this is not going to be anything that is in the actual movie. It's just a little like spending 5 minutes in the life of Deadpool.
Totally a Pixar short version of a violent R-rated Marvel superhero.
You know what I would love? I would love if they made an entire they should make an entire anthology series of like a day in the life of just these different comic book characters.
They kind of have that in the Marvel one-shots.
Well, yeah, except I want to see like an entire film put together like that.
Oh, yeah, that would be good.
Crossover and stuff.
So
sorry, go on.
If you guys have either of you watched this online since it got released proper by Fox?
No, I only watched it in the theater.
Yeah, I saw it in the theater on Thursday night.
Watch it online because there are a couple of things they add, including a Stan Lee cameo.
Okay.
It's really good. I won't spoil what it is, but it's one of the funnier ones.
Yeah, I was gonna say there is no Stan Lee cameo in Logan, so.
Speaking of Stan Lee cameos, somebody was citing the one in the original Spider-Man, where in Spider-Man 2, where Stan Lee is pulling a child out of the way of some falling debris or running away with someone. And they just said that Stan Lee uses giant superhero disasters to steal kids. Distracting.
But
and
then he was
did you guys read I invite you to do this too. Look up the text, that scrolling text at the very, very end. It is a Deadpool flavored breakdown synopsis of The Old Man and the Sea, and it's really funny. And it also has, the way it's written, has some subtle thematic parallels to Logan. So you can just see it as kind of like the producers of Deadpool just poking fun at the producers of Logan.
Yeah, right, Ernest Hemingway movie. Done the Deadpool way. Now that's interesting.
Yeah, read it. It's funny.
All right, so with that, we'll close the book on Logan for the week, and we'll go ahead and move into now, Hawk. You recently saw a television series called The Detroiters, or just Detroiters.
A new Comedy Central sitcom produced by Lorne Michaels and Jason Sudeikis. Okay. It's about two idiots that run an advertising firm, which was inherited from one of their fathers. It's a really funny show. It's a pretty standard sitcom, but the way it's very sharply written and very well acted. And just some of the gags are just kind of strange. There's an episode where they have they're doing a hot tub commercial for this guy, and their idea is he's dressed up as a king, and at the end of the commercial they throw hot tub water on him, which of course is 104 degrees and burns him. And then one of their interns begs to let begs them to let her edit the commercial, and she does. And she does it in this very bizarre, Adult Swim, Tim and Eric style way, which they think is horrible, but everybody else absolutely loves, and everybody wants that type of commercial for their commercials now.
So it's like they inherently, they like accidentally became Rhett and Link or something.
Yeah, except that they don't like that style at all, and they actively resist it. But it just turns out that their intern is better at editing commercials than they are, at least when it comes to knowing what people want. And there's other little things sprinkled in, like there's this old news anchor who just always comments on stuff after it's aired. So, after their commercial, which was where they throw the hot tub water on the guy, the anchor's like, well, I don't normally comment on commercials, but that was very bad. And then later on, they expect the guy to hate it, and he's like, that was quite fun. Let's watch it again, Jim. And it's just little situations like that. Like, again, very standard sitcom type stuff, but it's just kind of got this. It's goofy, but in almost dark in a way, in a whimsical way. Everybody's always kind of angry. It's kind of hard to really describe how it is, but just everybody's always angry at somebody else. Like they're fucking around with this van and seeing how the suspension is, and then their intern pops up and says, "Are you guys jerking each other off in here?" And then one of them says, "Do you see jizz on my face, Janet?" And just stuff like that. I've only seen 3 episodes because that's all that's aired. I think there's a 4th one that just aired, but it's a brand new show. I think it's pretty fucking funny. And that's really all I have. I mean, there's not much to say across 3 episodes, but there's some good running gags. The chemistry between the stars is pretty great. It's Sam Richardson and Tim Robinson.
And they're the co-creators of it, correct?
Yes. And then Lorne Michaels and Sudeikis produced it. Jason Sudeikis plays what was his role? He plays the head of a very high-profile company that these guys want to be working with because obviously the contract would be really good for them. But as the show stands right now, where these two are, they cannot escape the shadow of one of their. I can't remember whose dad it is. I think it's Sam Richardson's dad. They can't escape his shadow and how much good he did for that company before he passed it on to his son.
Okay. So there's some envy involved there.
I wouldn't say envy. It's more like they expect everyone to love them as much as they loved his dad, and they don't because they're idiots.
Well, that's another way of...
Well, when they're buying, like, for example, when they're buying that van, it's for the company to transport, filming equipment and stuff. As they're about to sign the deal, they look across the lot and see a crotch rocket, and they buy that instead.
So they need a vehicle for 2 of them, and they buy a motorcycle?
Yes.
And I take it
that they both manage to still fit on.
So yeah, there's a comedic shot of them awkwardly riding on the motorcycle together. Then
yes, absolutely.
That's very Dumb and Dumber.
It is, and it's kind of got that feel to it, like like it's in the trailers that when they're trying to get the contract from Jason Sudeikis, and they're like, if you don't want to do that, we'll just unplug you. And the other one's like, yeah, do it, kill him, and they unplug something from the wall, and it's the lamp next to the bed.
What?
Because I'm not on life support, you idiots. And just stuff like that. But I highly recommend it. It's really entertaining. And right now, Bill Arsenault, you have your other it's your smiling face.
Google kind of kicked me off for a second, so I'm sure that'll go away.
So that's all I got.
Okay, so what we'll do next is talk about Death Race 2050, which is, or I should give it the full title. It is Roger Corman's Death Race 2050.
Gotta have that.
This movie is amazing.
First of all, I have to say emphatically, if you have not seen the original Death Race 2000, it is highly recommended to see. This movie is essentially a remake of that almost beat for beat, except turned up to a whole nother degree of stupidity. And I think the main thing is, whereas Death Race 2000 was made earnestly to make a slightly satirical action racing kind of story, Death Race 2050 says, let's take those elements, let's Hunger Games it up even more, which is ironic considering Hunger Games stole a lot from the first Death Race in theme. And then let's just give it all of the crystal meth.
The first one was like a satire on the sensationalist and mindset of Americans and how we're always want more. 2050 is basically, look at how fucked we all are.
Yes. All right, so since you just saw it, Hawk, I'm going to give you the floor. Describe to me, or to all of us, the plot of Death Race 2050.
So the plot of Death Race 2050 is in the year 2050. The America is now the United Corporations of America.
That's really stupid. Yeah.
It's stupid, and it's like a lot of points of this movie are really uncomfortably on the nose, where it's like all you got to do is, if Earth is, or if reality is aligned on an x-axis, Death Race 2050 curls a few degrees.
Doesn't the American flag have dollar signs on it too?
It's what?
That's a little too. I mean, oh my God, that's like corporations just were like, you know what? We're taking over America, so let's just lay it in thick.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, in this world, Earth is horribly overpopulated. There's a line dropped about how they irradiated the world from cancer or something like that. Like, it was some stupid line.
Well, they've been able to cure most major diseases, and technology has essentially eliminated the need for employment. So the world has something like 98% unemployment.
It's 99.993%.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah,
99.3. So there's still some hope.
Which I say that because I remember that distinctly, as Malcolm McDowell's character is
of course he's in it.
He plays the president of the United States, or who is known as Mr. Chairman. Yeah. And Lord. Get this, it gets better. There is a joke made about his hair, and he thinks that his hair looks fine. You can spot the obvious parallels here. Which they don't go too hard on those. Like, that's pretty much the only 2 points where they do, but you can still tell that they're edging into it a little bit. So there's a sport created called Death Race. In this race, you get points. You win by having the best time around the track, or best time to the finish line. It's a
cross-country race.
Yeah, cross-country race. And then you get points if you kill pedestrians. You get like 10 points for an adult. The
bullies from the Toxic Avenger invented this?
Well, if you've seen the original Death Race, Bill, one thing to note is that the original Death Race features a very similar scene to the infamous Toxic Avenger watermelon explosion. There's another head kind of thing. And this movie carries that theme on with gusto.
Yes. And so you get like 10 points for an adult, 20 points for a child, and 50 points for an elderly person.
That might be what they say in Toxic Avenger. Maybe that's an homage, because the original Death Race came out before that, right?
Oh, yeah. Death Race was 73, I think.
75.
Okay.
Maybe that's a record, because that sounds like a similar point system to what they list.
Yes, it was. I have no doubt it was a direct reference that Toxie made to Death Race. Death Race was a pretty big hit considering its budget. So, but the concept is basically just, you have 5 racers selected to cross the country on whatever route they choose. The only requirements is that there are several pit stops they have to make, and together, and they are awarded points for killing pedestrians along the way. For instance, and the best part is, the world has gotten so fucked up on watching this event and participating in it that you have things like old folks' homes are emptying rooms out in order to put their people on the streets. There's this wonderful scene in which a school has all of their dumb students out front, and the idea is they're trying to raise test scores.
Yeah.
And so it just there is some fucked up satire in this movie that is just really what I like about this movie is it goes for the basest of humor in a lot of ways. This is a spaghetti at the wall approach. There's so many jokes. Many of them are terrible. This is clearly a movie that they wrote quick and didn't workshop a lot, but there's an earnestness behind it. And for every failed joke, there's at least, I would say, for every 2 failed jokes, there's at least one really good one. And they throw them at you so fast.
Even the failed ones feel still like a throwback to, 70s Grindhouse.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Schlock. It's just, I don't know.
I would say the best example of something that doesn't quite work is there's this one driver who is, she's the street driver. She's black and she's from the streets and she's supposed to be the ghetto one. And she has a rap song. And it is clear that they took about maybe a half a minute writing it, because the lyrics of her hip hop song are literally drive, 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 kill, 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 repeated over and over again.
And then the line "kill the white people" is in there too.
Yeah,
all set to a very generic techno beat.
Yeah, they clearly put no effort into writing it at all, and yet they make it up like this is supposed to be a huge hit, and it sort of has an idiocracy element to it, I guess, where maybe the dumbing down of the world has caused a song as simple and base as this. This is sort of this movie's version of Ass the Movie.
But also this character trait is kind of reversed later on in the movie when this character is revealed to not be so street and ghetto. She's off the track. She's a very well-spoken, articulate student of Stanford.
And she's doing she's doing the ghetto thing because it's getting her into the race, basically.
And she likes the money. Yeah.
Exactly.
That actually gets into one of the best jokes in the movie, where another female character in this hotel is visiting Bechdel's bar. And that is Bechdel as in the Bechdel test. And then she has a conversation with this other female character, and they proceed to both break and then pass the Bechdel rule.
Right. And they pass it in the most tacit, dumb way possible, because they're at first failing, because they're talking about one of the concepts in Death Race is that every male driver has a female passenger who is there basically there as partially as their moral support, partially as their this is where this gets totally 1970s, pretty much as their lover, and then also as someone.
I think you're painting it too nicely. It's probably something far worse.
They're also the addition to this movie is that they're wearing a headset with a camera, and they become the proxy for the driver, so that people that are watching can have a VR experience of sitting alongside their idolized driver.
And that's the other thing. This movie kind of takes on the whole Oculus Rift thing by saying, in the future, every dumbass is going to not just want to watch the Death Race, they want to be in it. And I don't want to get into the ending of the film other than to say the entire film follows a couple of different characters who are watching the Death Race, and this one guy in particular, through the VR experience. And the movie ends on this sequence that basically insinuates they've learned nothing from this experience.
Yes.
And I don't want to ruin it because I highly recommend anyone. I mean, this movie's on Netflix. You have no fucking excuse to not watch it now.
It ends like the Truman Show ends, where those two security guards are like, "Oh right, Truman got out. What's next on TV? Get the TV guide."
Yeah, kind of, except with a much more end of the world kind of prospect.
Cynical.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I think that Manu Bennett was not quite as great as David Carradine.
Yeah, David Carradine definitely carries the film a lot more. Manu Bennett, I think I mentioned this when I was watching the film initially. The sense I get from his performance in the film is that he basically he's playing the character that you would have gotten played by darn it, now I just lost it.
James Caan?
No. Punisher Warzone.
Oh,
Ray Stevenson.
Yeah, he's kind of like a bargain basement Ray Stevenson.
But I like Manu Bennett a lot. He's going to be, isn't he going to be Deathstroke coming up? He was Deathstroke in Arrow. Oh wait, no. That's not him. I'm
No,
thinking
it's
of
not
somebody else.
Deathstroke. Oh wait,
He was Deathstroke in Arrow, but he's not going to be Deathstroke in the Batman as it was.
we don't even know if that's even if Deathstroke's
Right,
even going to be in the Batman
No,
anymore.
but he was awesome in Arrow as Deathstroke before Arrow went to shit.
We haven't even talked about two of the drivers, or the three of the drivers. There's one who is essentially a Christian terrorist, although they don't say Christian outright. What they say is that she's the member of her own personally created religion.
He calls it a personally created, very convoluted religion.
Yes.
Oh.
And then, but the sense you get is that it's probably like something very close to whatever Alex Jones believes in.
Well, she mentions God a lot, and she wears patriotic outfits,
and she likes blowing up things like a lot. And then you also have you have a character who is named Jed Perfectus, and he is
amazing.
Go into this.
It's probably the best part of the whole movie. Perfectus is a genetically created, perfect human being, like blonde hair, awesome, like sculpted jaw, and he is very, very full of himself. But that is driven by a constant stream of doubtful thoughts. Like there's a part where he is running around his hotel room screaming, and he looks at a snow globe with a ballerina, and the ballerina turns into him wearing a tutu and lots of eyeshadow. It's like, this is your inner self. And it's just like everything about Perfectus is, for lack of a better word, perfect.
Not only that, except then Perfectus starts having his own midlife crisis of going through a latent homosexuality kind of panic. And
yes.
It's one of those things where at first the thought on my mind was, this is like a kind of joke you would have written in a 1980s movie, but they push it so far and so ridiculously overly stereotypical that it becomes a parody of itself.
Yes.
And by the way, Perfectus, if you want to get an idea of how to visualize him, he kind of looks like Robbie Rotten from Lazy Town.
Mm.
Yes, he does.
So does Sleaze Bagano from Attack of the Clones show up in this?
God damn it! You want to buy some death sticks?
Yeah.
No. And then Perfectus has a fight with Frankenstein. You know, Manu Bennett's character, and it turns into a pillow fight.
Yes,
which is obviously it's very one-sided in the way and how homoerotic it is, but it's still really funny.
And then there is my personal favorite of the drivers, a robot driver.
Yes.
The robot driver, the ABE, is it goes through a crisis of its own in that literally right on the starting line, it struggles with its own design. It was designed to kill, and the robot has reached sentience, and it's trying to figure out why it was designed to kill. And so it quickly abandons the race in favor of a journey of self-acceptance.
Yeah, just like this robot is just roving the wilderness, just having his own existential crisis.
So it's one of those things.
Like just going around, systems failing, dying soon, fear! And like he cries at one point, like it's so sad.
Right in the middle of like fulfilling its programming and killing people, it's at the same time like deeply, deeply concerned about the fact that it was programmed to do this.
Yeah, he goes up to like a wooden Indian to gas station. It's like, "Excuse me, sir, I require assistance as I have no hands." And obviously, because it's a wooden Indian, doesn't respond, and then he just runs over the wooden Indian and says, "We could have been friends," and just starts sobbing. It's so funny.
That's the thing. This movie is both the dumbest thing I think I've seen in years, and also in some ways one of the smartest comedies I've seen.
It's immensely clever. Yes, I don't know whether to put this on my short list for best movie or worst movie of the year, like at the top 10 or to bottom 10.
I intentionally left off my bottom 10. Intentionally did not include movies with intentionally bad elements to them. So I would say this fits in that wonderful area of that happy medium where it kind of could go either way depending on how you want to rate your films.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree, and I also am leaning towards best because I had so much fun with it.
Can I also?
It even has ninjas.
Yes, their ninjas show up because it's they can. And the last thing I will say about the movie is the low Roger Corman budget is so obvious throughout. The movie was entirely shot in Peru, and you can tell because so many of the extras look Peruvian. They have that kind of half Indian, half Hispanic kind of look to them, and they write it into the story pretty well by like saying that, making the insinuation that the population. Oops, we've reached that point. Going a little over time here. They kind of get away with that by saying, like New York is now Nueva York. So to kind of hint at the growing Hispanic population of the U.S.
Baltimore is called Upper Shitsville.
Which is so
actually
true.
I will say this, like there are certain points in the movie where it zooms out on a digital map and then zooms into where everybody is. Pause the movie at those points if you get a chance and look at what some of the provinces are named. Like Eastern California is called Zuckerville.
Oh boy. Yeah, and the production values though are so dirt cheap. The cars, my understanding is the cars were built on Volkswagen chassis, and they just covered the chassis with foam rubber that they painted, and it's so obvious.
It's like rattles as they're driving.
Yeah, the workman quality, like when people just touch it, you can see it move, and but it's because of the fact that this film has very much we're putting on a show kind of aspect to it. Everyone brings their game. Malcolm McDowell looks like he's having a ton of fun, essentially collecting a paycheck.
Oh yeah, he's great.
And that's all I'll say about it. I think the Death Race 2050 is a wonderful experience in schlock.
It's so much fun.
All right, so tell us about The Detour.
The Detour is a TBS show created by Jason Jones and his wife Samantha Bee. The premise is simple. This family is going on a road trip. They're going to go to, I think it was like Disneyland or something, but they get sidetracked. They take a road that was supposed to be open, but it wasn't, and they end up going way off the beaten path. And that's the premise of the show, is that every new episode is some new situation or problem or stop for them. And it sounds simple. I'm not really a big fan of road trip movies or road trip situations, but this one pulls it off extremely well because it has this sense of just, you want to talk about unraveling. This is unraveling. Like every new episode is some kind of crazy new revelation that just continues to peel the layers of this family's dysfunction apart. And it's also surprising, like it's rated TVMA and it's on TBS, so they actually go for a lot of surprisingly offensive things, like that you don't think they're going to. Like there's a whole situation where they're at a medieval times style restaurant, and it turns into a very accidentally racist situation when the son is playing this archery game where he's shooting at a guy in a suit of armor. He's got a hole in his chest. Where's the target? If he gets the dart into the hole in the chest, then he wins the prize. And he just says, "It's like, I'm almost done, Dad. I have to shoot this chink in the armor." And of course, the guy wearing the armor is Asian and gets offended by that statement.
Ouch.
And it turns into this huge thing where they had to explain why it's not really racist. And the dad is saying, it's like, chink is a real word, like a chip in the armor. If you look it up, you'll find it. And then everybody else they volunteer examples of how he could have worded that better, that there are other words for cracks in the armor than chink. And stuff like that. It's actually really sharply written. And just, it's got that kind of uncomfortable comedy, where like you just put your face in your hands and be like, these characters are in situations that I would never want to be in, and they are just making it worse. But I've watched the entire first season. The second season is airing now on TBS, but this is another one of those pseudo Always Sunny shows where it's just a bunch of dirtbags interacting with each other. And I recommend that one even more than Detroiters. I love them both, but if you had to do just one, the Detour is so consistently clever and hilarious. Mm-hmm. I will probably actually be watching. I'll probably be rewatching that tonight, honestly.
Okay, so the Detour has more inventiveness in the way it's structured, then.
I wouldn't say more inventiveness in the way it's structured. It's just the directions it allows itself to go. I guess, yeah, you could say inventiveness in how it's structured, but yeah, it just the road trip scenario gives a lot of potential to what they want to do with the show. Like apparently in season 2, they're in New York, and the idea of a family trip has been ditched entirely. So again, things keep spiraling further and further out of control. Like there's a huge revelation about the husband and wife in like the 4th episode. And it just gets completely crazy where you wonder how they're going to keep escalating it. And that's kind of the fun. It was like, what are these idiots going to get into next? Mm-hmm. It's also it's not a sitcom in the sense that like, you know, Always Sunny is most of the episodes are self-contained stories, but there is a through line. Like, for example, Rickety Cricket, every time you see him, he's in a worse state of being. Mm-hmm. The Detour is very serialized. What?
The last week's episode of Sunny in Philadelphia was a cricket-centric episode.
Yeah, I read about that, but I haven't watched it yet. I do want to see it because I love Rickety Cricket. The Detour is very serialized. Everything follows after the previous episode, but in a good way.
Okay. Any other thoughts on it, or?
No, not really. I think tomorrow I have the day off. I'm probably going to look and see if On Demand has season 2 yet.
All right, so now we reach the climax of our show as Bill Arsenault.
Wow, it's only like an hour and 15, maybe less than that.
I know, this is one of our shorter episodes, and you know what? That's okay. You don't have to do...
But, you know, my computer, if you noticed, I had to log out a couple of times. My computer has shit the bed a few times tonight, and I'm worried that it's going to do it again. So maybe we could hold off on Kong Skull Island talk for next week when it comes out officially. I did see it yesterday, which was the other day, and I didn't particularly. I mean, it was fun, but it wasn't. It was style over substance.
Okay. That's kind of what I'm expecting.
Yeah, okay. It was style over substance, but to the extreme. Like, there was really no substance.
Does it feel like a fun... I mean, you want to do it next week, but just for some snap reactions, does it feel like a fun throwback Monster Mash?
No.
Would you say that it is a graveyard smash?
Yeah, it's a graveyard smash.
Did it catch on in a flash?
No, it didn't catch on in a flash.
So you didn't like it very much?
I didn't hate it. I just didn't. I when I talked to the press person afterwards who was recording all of our comments, I was like, you know, it was fun, but it reminded me too much of Jurassic World.
Oh, interesting.
But it was better than Jurassic World and worse than Jurassic World at the same time.
So now what's going to happen is your blurb is going to be changed into, it reminded me of Jurassic World.
Which a lot of people are like, oh.
But a lot more people are like, oh.
Yeah, except for the billions of people. Like, that movie was like one of the... It
made a shitload of money, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, how many of those people had buyer's remorse? They walked out and they're like, man, I'm fucking angry that Colin Trevorrow is going to direct Star Wars Episode 9.
I actually got no problem with him directing Episode 9. But
I didn't care for Jurassic World, but he can direct Star Wars. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, that's more of a controlled environment, kind of like Marvel in a way.
Yeah, there's more expectations on you.
Yeah, so you know, I mean, I'm sure Rian Johnson's going to have his own flavor to it, but it's still going to be a Star Wars film.
I'm excited for Episode 8, especially
very much so. Yes, and they just released. They didn't release it online, but they showed footage of it to some shareholders today, and they were all like over the moon about it. You know,
were you one of them?
No.
Oh.
I didn't see it. I just saw that news article that said they showed it.
Apparently, some people saw the footage and liked it a lot.
So you don't see Bill Arsenault wearing a top hat and a monocle right now, so clearly he's not a shareholder of Disney.
There's a fellow critic in New Orleans who is a shareholder in Disney, but he's a giant asshole. So
you're not going to ask him what he thought about the.
No, not at all. I don't want to broach him in any manner.
You don't want to call him out on the internet?
I could, but I mean, no one gives a fuck who this guy is anyway.
Right.
So, he writes for some like dish soap rag out in a parish that no one really cares about. So, but he's still a giant. Anyways, no, Kong Skull Island, I'll talk very briefly about it because it looks like my computer is holding steady. You know, it
has all the actors.
Yes, okay. All right. Stylistically, it's very creative. What I mean is it takes a lot of inspiration from movies, and you can already see in the posters, it's taking inspiration from Apocalypse Now.
Mm-hmm.
But it also takes inspiration from some other Vietnam War era films. It takes inspiration from Dr. Strangelove in a way, but that's more like direct, and that gives away the ending a little bit. But it's not the same thing. They use a song from Dr. Strangelove, and
We'll Meet Again.
Yes.
Okay.
And you got it.
That is the song in Dr. Strangelove.
The only
song, yeah.
Yeah, and they use that, but it's done in a different way. It's not like the ending is the end of the world or anything like that. It's because obviously there's got to be sequels to this. But it's way too stylistic, and almost because it's making up for something, and that something is the fact that there really aren't any characters. There are characters. There aren't any well done characters. Like John Goodman's there for a few minutes just to give expository dialogue. He's like
in the trailer.
Yeah, he's like, I believe in monsters, and that's about it. Samuel L. Jackson is there, but it's like he has no real. He's there for a purpose, but it's like his purpose is misguided.
They don't give him a lot to do.
They give him a lot to do. That's the thing. But what they give him to do, it's like it's a wrong course of action.
Okay.
Like they give him just enough for him to be like, okay, it's a good character, but it's like he has no real reason to be doing this. He has a very loose reason to be doing what he's doing, but it's
what's the MPA rating on this thing?
I think it's like PG-13 or something.
So he can go full Lakeview Terrace in this.
That would be wonderful.
Somebody said that isn't Lakeview Terrace rated PG-13 too?
No, I'm pretty sure it's rated R.
I'm pretty sure that's an R, yeah.
Is it? I don't think so. Let me look this up.
Might be right, but I don't remember. It's by the guy that did the movie where the rich guys fuck with the deaf girl.
Lakeview Terrace is PG-13.
Yeah, it's PG-13.
For intense thematic material, violence, sexuality, language, and some drug references. The script is packed with moderate profanity, as well as a couple of strong sexual expletives. Terms of deity, racial slurs, and sexual innuendos are also included. That's from parentpreviews.com.
Yeah, dude, Ken just said that in the most.
Somebody did mention offhand online that in a way, Kong Skull Island was more violent than Logan. That sounded not accurate to me.
Technically, I mean, yeah, Kong messes up a bunch of helicopters and he stomps on people. So I guess in
it may have a bigger body count.
Really violence though.
It has a bigger body count, but it's not like and there is some blood here and there, but it's not as graphic. You know,
right.
Logan is just plain visceral.
Logan had this guttural, angry edge to it.
You know, this was just like, oh, people got swatted.
Okay.
Like it's still like, you know, horrific. Don't get me wrong. It's just
I want to ask this.
That power. Go ahead.
I want to ask this question. Ken, this is kind of going off what you said. Is Skull Island, again, in the words of Ken, up its own ass as much as Peter Jackson's King Kong was?
I don't think Peter Jackson's King Kong was up its own ass. I think Peter Jackson's King Kong was very much
I think.
Well,
it was also 3 hours long.
Okay, in that sense, in terms of being overly indulgent in the material, yes, that movie was up its own ass. But I think it had good intentions. I think it was paved in good mojo. You know what I mean? Like it was meant to be this nice kind of reimagining of that world. Kong Skull Island, I would say it's up its own ass in the wrong way.
Oh, okay.
You know, I can only think here's the thing. I'm trying to think of ways to describe where I would put Peter Jackson's King Kong, and I can only think of it in prog rock album metaphors, so only Bill Leon would get what I'm talking about.
I understand prog rock.
Yeah, right. That's
well, okay.
I listen to King's X.
I listen to Godspeed, You Black Emperor.
Okay, so whereas Return of the King is like Yes is Close to the Edge, Peter Jackson's King Kong is Tales from Topographic Oceans.
Okay.
See, that felt like a wet fart.
No, Bill Leon kind of got it.
How about this? It is the passion play to Return of the King's Thick as a Brick. See, that
okay,
also
now you're going into territory that I'm not well versed in.
Yeah, really.
Okay,
Just stop.
I'm just a casual hipster. I'm not a real one.
Yeah,
well,
really.
Because the reason I'm saying that is because Peter Jackson, like Return of the King and King Kong, are two very heavily indulgent films, and I was when trying to think of a metaphor or anything to compare. The only thing I could think of is something as overindulgent as 70s prog rock.
Well, okay. Is this movie Kong Skull Island overindulgent? I would say no, but it is kind of up its own ass, like we were just saying. In terms of it feeling like it has to be so visual, so stylish, so cool, so rapid fire that in that sense it is kind of very much misguided.
I feel bad saying this, but that visual element is one of the things that really attracts me to it.
That attracted me to it as well, but I thought it was going to be a little more subdued. Like I thought it was just going to be for the big shots. This movie's all that. It's like literally like pow, pow, pow. There's like even in the scenes where like John Goodman in the beginning is talking to his assistant and they're trying to get government funding for their project to go off to this island. There's a sequence where the photography is kind of all over the place. It reminded me of Natural Born Killers in a way, where the editing was just cut so quickly and so tightly, but it would cut almost randomly to different shit. While it contrasted well and was well-meaning, it was still like ADD, like, oh my God, you know? I love Natural Born Killers, don't get me wrong. I think it works in that movie. But in Kong Skull Island, it's like... it's almost headache inducing at times, you know, how quick the pace is, how quick and snappy the editing is, how it's good. The photography is very good in this movie. Don't get me wrong. It's by Larry Fong, who was Zack Snyder's director of photography on a number of films. And the
director of the film, Jordan Vogt Roberts, his other film, his first feature was The Kings of Summer, which was a really good movie.
Yeah, so I mean, I can't fault the vision of this film necessarily, but I can fault maybe forgetting about the story and the characters because there really isn't any. But then again, if you were to relate this to the Gareth Edwards Godzilla movie, that's a hard comparison because if you recall in that film also lacked in character a little bit and a little bit in story. It was more about the monster than it was about the people. But or at least it gave more importance to the monster than the people, which of course these movies are supposed to do. They're monster movies, but there has to be something there for us to kind of relate to, you know, as an audience. It can't just be like.
At the same time, that's kind of why the Transformers movies suck, is because we spent so much goddamn time on the human characters.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but
except those human characters are like.
Poorly written and
not poorly written, but they're annoying as fuck.
They're annoying. They're insane. They're ignorant. They're all this. You know, you can have characters we relate to without having those traits. That's your choice as a writer. Now in this movie, the characters are all, you know, they're flatline, but they're not annoying or anything. Except maybe John C. Reilly is the only character in this movie that I felt any real connection to.
He's in this. He really does have one.
He plays a World War II soldier who got trapped on the island. This movie takes place in the 70s during the end of the Vietnam War. And
they made a King Kong remake in the 70s.
Yeah, I know, but that's when this movie takes place. And and they find him on the island. He's all like bearded, and he's like, "Hey, oh my God, people, welcome to my home."
Which, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but the director himself grew a crazy beard during the making of this film.
Yeah,
you can actually.
That's not just how he looks.
No, yeah, he was prior to beginning this film. He kind of just started growing the beard over the course of the movie, and he claims that it was because of like how hard the movie was and the process of making it that he just didn't care to spend time trimming his beard.
I bet this movie was a trial to make, because there are a lot of sequences that I could imagine from a technical standpoint, like in a choreography standpoint, and then of course thinking about the special effects you're going to have to render later standpoint, must have been extremely difficult to do. So I give a lot of credit where it's due. You know, there's so many things to like about this movie. Like I said, the style, the photography, the I guess the sheer amount of direction that had to go into it. It's just where it lacks is the writing, and that pulled it down some for me. So this movie is very fun. Don't get me wrong. I had a fun time watching it. The kid behind me who provided live commentary the entire fucking movie had a great time watching it. I smiled every time that kid talked. He was like, "Oh my God, is that a giant monster going to attack that guy?" And then a second later it happened, and he was like, "Yes."
It reminds
I was that kid in Logan.
Right, exactly. So I can only appreciate that, because that was too cute for me, you know, to not appreciate. But you know, so this is a fun movie, but it's just not. I guess because I like the original King Kong so much, I expected a little bit more. Maybe
it's not substantial.
It's not. Yeah, it's not as substantial as that. It's not really up to certain expectations, but I guess I mean the one big thing that I just disliked about the Kong Skull Island was they give Kong away way too early, and in a nothing shot kind of.
Oh, okay. So they don't really have a good reveal.
There's no reveal. There's no big what the fuck. You know, it's not like in the trailer where it's like, is that a monkey? You know, it's not like that. He's just revealed like boom, he's there, and it's like, oh. You know, whereas in Godzilla, at least they built it up. They built up over time.
They built it up too much, I would argue.
You could argue that, but they still built it up. In this movie, it's just kind of like they just throw them out there, and it's
right.
Like, oh.
I would say the best example I can think of a movie giving a big reveal early on and it working has to be Jurassic Park. When it pulls out and you just see all of the dinosaurs. And, you know, you have the wonderful song playing. You know, John Williams makes that scene work so hard.
That's the standard. That's the standard bearer right there is Jurassic Park. And you know, this movie I don't think is trying to go for that, but it certainly could have stood to think about that. Mm-hmm. You know, the monster look itself is great. The special effects are great. You know, it was done by Industrial Light and Magic, I believe.
Oh, okay.
You know, so I mean, there are a lot of things to like about this movie. It's just when it tries to make us care about the characters and their motivations, it falls because there really aren't any characters or motivations. I could get into spoilers, but I think you guys ought to see it first.
Yeah,
there really isn't much to spoil here because nothing like no huge revelations are given, but in terms of the story itself, yeah, I'm not gonna spoil that, but yeah, it's mostly like it's fun, but it could have been so much more.
So my only question I will ask going forward from here is how stir crazy is John C. Reilly? Like, is he going full Dr. Steve Brule?
No, well, actually, there is a reference to Steve Brule in this movie that I think I was the only one that caught.
Okay.
What?
Because on the back of his jacket it says "For your health."
You know what's crazy?
I was like, "Holy shit!"
So he makes no references to a Dangus and Urangus.
What'd you say, Hawk?
You guys didn't see that in the original trailer?
Oh, they must not have. I didn't see it in the original.
Yeah,
trailer.
No, they had it in the original trailer, but it's crazy because I was looking at the trivia a few days ago, and the jacket is actually, it says "Good for your health, bad for education," right?
Something like that, yeah. So it's supposed to have an army edge to it, like, oh, he's an army guy, but it still says "For your health."
Right.
And that's
So it's a
clearly
weird
reference.
cross reference. Like they kind of that phrase "good for your health, bad for education" comes with a logo that's from the anime Akira.
Oh wow. Okay. So there's like
So it's weird. Like the reference goes in two different directions.
Referenceception.
Referenceception. Yes.
Referenceception.
So what were you saying, Ken? You two kind of asked two different questions at the same time.
Oh no, I was just making a reference to Brule's way of speaking. Like he didn't go
Put your
into
rangus in her dangus.
You
yeah,
dingus?
put your rangus in the dangus.
It's Brule's Rules with Channel 5's Dr. Steve Brule.
That's Tom Hiddleston. He's a dang hunk.
There's another Brule rule for you.
No, he doesn't act like that in the movie. He is a little stir crazy, but there are, again, I don't want to give too much away, but there is reason for him to not be as insane. You know,
I did get very strong Brule vibes at the end of the trailer. He's like, "You got a good group of boys here. You're all gonna die."
I think that's just the way he talks.
Yeah.
I don't think it's so much that he's doing Steve Brule. I think he does have that natural slang in him where it just comes out every once in a while, where he kind of over enunciates with his tongue or something, you know. But
what I love about John C. Reilly is that on screen he can be as serious or as goofy as possible, but off screen, if you've ever heard him interviewed, he takes his craft so fucking seriously.
Yeah, he does a great job in this movie. Don't get me wrong, you know. And while they don't give him much to play with, he kind of imbues his character with a lot of heavy emotion, you know. And he's really he and Samuel L. Jackson are really the only two to kind of, you know, get into a little bit. Everyone else is just kind of filler. But unfortunately,
I was kind of hoping for some John Goodman.
He says there's only one good scene with him in this movie, and that was in the trailer where Sam Jackson pulls a gun on him. Oh, okay. You're gonna tell me what I don't know? I'm gonna blow your damn head off.
Well, John Goodman is the master of being in one good scene in movies. So
yeah, I think he just picked this movie because it's a King Kong film. So
yes, I've said this before, Hawk. Watch The Gambler with Mark Wahlberg.
I've seen that. Like that's good. But I see
scene on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. Watch that scene on YouTube and move on.
I reacted to what you said because he's not exclusively the master of one scene in movies.
Right, but he's in a lot of movies in very small parts, and that my point is, regardless of the size of the part, he will steal the show.
It's not the size of the boat; it's the motion of the ocean.
Yes, and he's got a lot of motioning for the oceaning.
I mean, yeah, because he's got full-length films where he's a main character and he's amazing. So
yeah,
so he does good for what he does in the movie, but he's just not there in it all that much. And it's very funny because when they're walking around the island in long takes, you don't see him, but you know he's supposed to be there. And I got the impression it was because he can't walk all too good anymore.
Really? I thought he lost a ton of weight.
No, he did, but he has like a leg injury or a knee injury or something.
Oh, his character does?
No, he legitimately has in real life problems with walking. Like his knees are just bad.
Oh, I didn't know
he can tell he kind of walks a little bit with a limp now. So I think it was just to save him some time from from having to walk long distances. They were just like, let's just not show him in these scenes. Let's just show him sitting down in other scenes. So it's kind of fun.
All right. So with that having been said, I want
to close out and talk about Wham City Comedy briefly.
What about Wham City Comedy?
Wham City Comedy, aka AB Video Solutions, the creators of unedited footage of a bear and This House Has People in It and The Children of the Mirror. I had seen This House Has People in It, but I don't know if you guys know this. There's like the website that they put on the screen during the video. If you go there's tons of like different footage. Like you go down a fucking rabbit hole of information about This House Has People in It. You find out like all this work that went into it and how it makes sense. It's fucking insane.
Okay.
I know that Ken said he's watched the short, right? Have you guys watched the short?
Yeah.
No. Okay. It's part of the Adult Swim infomercial series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and these guys just did a short series for IFC called The Children of the Mirror. about this cult that's obsessed with.
Oh, is that video thing you sent me that I couldn't watch
Did you
because
watch it?
YouTube was messing up? I still couldn't watch it. I'm gonna have to try again soon. Yeah.
You should watch it because it's fantastic. These guys are actually touring near me soon, and I got tickets because I like these videos so much. It's on some "Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared" shit where there's like clearly symbolism there, but some people might be reading way too deep into it. I'm not sure, but I'm enjoying their content, and I highly recommend them because they're fucking crazy.
All right, so with that said, we'll go ahead and see you next week when we'll have Kong Skull Island to talk about again, except this time some of us will have seen it.
I will not be there.
Okay, so this time I will have seen it, and Billion, will you?
May or may not have seen it. Yeah.
I'll be writing a
I'll say
review.
this. I'm not super interested in it, and I've been thinking about this for some reason. Like, what if this movie's a gigantic hit and becomes like a franchise? If you traveled back in time to 2008 and somebody said to you, like, the Planet of the Apes is going to get rebooted and become successful, would you believe it?
I'm going to drop some science on you, Bill. The chances of this movie becoming a runaway hit is basically non-existent because it has this weekend only. Because next weekend is Beauty and the Beast.
Oh no! Yeah.
This weekend it's contending with Logan, and next weekend it's contending with Beauty and the Beast. So unless it is a huge fucking runaway hit this weekend, it's basically done for.
And you know that you know that this is part of a franchise, right, Bill?
The Monsterverse. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that started with Godzilla.
Arguably the one that started in 1931.
Well, no. I'm saying this is this is going to go alongside the Gareth Edwards Godzilla as part of the monster.
And then Godzilla King of the Monsters, directed by Michael Dougherty. Daughtry.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't they increase the size of King Kong this time around?
Yes.
Yes, the biggest Kong that ever has been. Yeah. Not to mention, the Michael Daltrey, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, is possibly going to include Mothra and King Ghidorah and all of the Toho monsters, which were kind of on lock until it was confirmed that the 2014 Godzilla was going to be successful.
Have they changed King Kong's size? Because he's not anywhere near.
He's fucking huge now.
Okay, he's nowhere near as tall. Well, the original King Kong was what, like 30 feet tall?
Yeah, he's Godzilla size now.
Well, for the King Kong versus Godzilla movie in the 60s, they did change his size considerably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just think of like young kids see this and like, oh, King Kong, my grandfather likes that or something, you know. Like I don't. And I know that the Peter Jackson one only came out in 2005, but like
it was a sizable hit, but that was still long enough ago that the young generation may still not have been like right now. If you're making PG-13 action movies, you're shooting for people who are 10, 11, 12 years old, people who were too young to go see King Kong when it came out.
Yeah, I don't know if this movie's going to do so well, which is kind of sad. But I respect you. I respect what you're saying, Bill. But everything that you're saying tells me that I'm probably going to really enjoy this.
Now, that said, Kong Skull Island is probably going to perform really well internationally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because it's a known franchise. It's got some popular actors in it, and that kind of stuff plays really well in like China, for instance.
Yeah.
So the movie, for all we know, the movie could be like this year's Warcraft, where it does respectably to the point of like a movie for half of its budget here, so not very good. But then overseas, it's like a runaway hit.
I could be wrong, but I think Warcraft was going to make money in China regardless because I think like they have a large population that plays the game there, right?
Yeah, that's all they do.
Yeah.
Kong was only 190 million.
Oh, only. Yeah.
I say only like that's more money than I'm ever going to see in my life combined. But Logan was like 120 or something fucking crazy like that.
Yeah.
James Mangold's like, oh, we negotiated a smaller budget with Fox so we could have it R-rated. And but again, like the movie is like $130 million budget or something like that.
You see, that's the thing. $100 million is kind of a mid-budget these days.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Which is
That's
really, when you think about that, it's kind of sickening considering there's movies that get made for $10 million that look great.
Mhm.
But, you know, or even Deadpool last year, $60 million, looked great.
Who Killed Captain Alex was made for what, like $20?
Looks great.
I think they said
Yeah, it looks great. Spider-Man.
Yeah. Well, Who Killed Captain Alex? That movie is that movie is something special, truly special.
This says I'm confused here. This Box Office Mojo says 97 million was the budget for Logan, but I definitely looked up the budget last Saturday, and Google returned 125.
Hollywood reporting of budget is notoriously inconsistent, so you will see a ton of different numbers thrown out there. To this day, like, people are debating what the actual cost of Titanic is. Or,
adjusted for inflation, they're saying 300 million now.
So they say.
So they say.
That's the thing. I actually much rather prefer the budget conversation that I heard about Death Race 2050, where apparently Roger Corman got something like $5 million from the studio who owns the rights to the name Death Race after Corman sold it to them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Universal, and they gave him like $5 million to make the movie, and then Corman proceeded to basically make sure the movie was as cheap as possible so he could pocket what was left. To the director, in an interview I heard him in, he said, "I have no idea how much this movie cost." Awesome. Which indicates Corman usually likes to make his movies for less than $1 million if possible. So who knows? And if you watch Death Race 2050, your thought on your mind will be, this was probably made for maybe $2 million.
Yeah, I would even say probably less than that, but
yeah. but
it's great.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's entertaining. It's schlocky as fuck. And on that note, we will see you next week.
Yep.